Thank you for joining PortaOne webinar about new features in maintenance releases 126 to 129. This webinar is going to be conducted by my colleague, a team lead of technical writers, Anastasia Holota, or as we call her in the company, Stacy, and myself, my KIDIC product officer.
Hello, everyone.
So what we are going to cover today, obviously these are going to be new features in the PortaSwitch itself. Then we will also cover some new developments in PortaPhone, in Add-on Mart and Cloud PBX portal. And this is now a tradition. At the end of the webinar, I'll have a special offer for you. There are some great news about some new stuff that we've developed. And again, as usual, we will end with a Q&A session. So any questions you type in the Q&A window, Stacy and I, we will cover them at the end of the webinar. So let's jump right into it. And I'm passing the mic to Stacy, who will cover PortaSwitch features.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Hi, everyone again. I will start with something that is particularly interesting if you're an MVNO or if you're bundling third-party services into your offering. So Porta billing can be used to charge for services offered by third-party platforms. I believe you know that. And quite often, these services come with additional features that need to be activated. Things like parental control, custom ringback tones, or premium content access. Until now, managing those meant manual work for your admins. So what we've done is made it possible to define custom service features directly in Porta billing products. The way it is configured is that you define the feature and possible values once, included in a product, and that's basically it. For example, you offer an AI recruiter agent service with two plans. One comes with 1,000 CVs per month and another one with 10,000 CVs per month. You define those limits once in Porta billing as part of each product. Then from that point on, whenever the subscriber activates, upgrades, or stops paying for the service, it gets provisioned automatically. And that's really the point, as no manual steps, no per subscriber configuration. So essentially, you get centralized control over features provided outside PortaSwitch. And it is a clean way for you to monetize them through your existing product catalogs. The next one is simple but really useful. Multiple bundle notifications. So imagine you have a customer with a bundle, say 100 minutes and 10 gigs of data. You would like to notify them when they get low on remaining minutes and gigabytes or when the bundle is depleted. Until now, you can send the users basically just two notifications, one when they cross a specified defined threshold, and another one when the bundle is depleted. In many markets, service providers are expected to warn the user multiple times before the bundle is depleted. Moreover, in some countries, it is required by local law or regulators. With this new feature, you can set as many thresholds as you want to per bundle item. So you can notify your customers when they use up 50, 70, 90% of data allowance. They get a heads up early enough to actually do something about it, and you get fewer complaints from the customers about extra charges or interrupted services after the bundle is depleted. Moving on, the next one is very practical, and if you have Cloud PBX customers, you'll probably relate to the problem it solves. So the situation is that a business customer, let's say, has call forwarding set up on an extension. The admin configured everything, the ring time, the forwarding rules, the whole thing. But occasionally, the users need to change the number where to forward calls. So let's say due to their traveling or the on-call person changed. the users, they can do that via self-care portals, or they can request a PBX admin to do that. But some users prefer doing it the usual way, directly from their phones. So we've added a simple voice application for exactly this. The user just dials an access code from their phone, hears the current forwarding number, enters a new one, and hands up. Everything else, like the ring time, the forwarding logic, stays exactly as the admin set it. The user can only basically change the destination number at no risk of accidentally misconfiguring something else. As a result, your cloud PBX customers will be happy as they can continue managing call forwardings the way they used to, and your PBX admins do not have to deal with daily requests from their colleagues. Let's jump to the next one. This one is more technical, but it's something a number of you have been running into, especially those of you that connect to modern cloud platforms. A lot of AI-powered contact centers, cloud PBXs, and vendor soft switches only accept encrypted calls these days. That's just how they built. It requires SIP calls from your PortaSwitch to be secured with TLS. Previously, TLS support covered calls to and from IP phones and soft phones, the basics. But forwarded calls, transferred calls, calls to a static SIP contact, and calls routed to vendors, those were not covered. So if the customer wanted to route all incoming calls to a cloud platform that required SIP over TLS, this was rather complicated or simply impossible. So we've extended TLS support to cover all those scenarios. To set it up, you upload TLS certificates to PortaSwitch, enable TLS call delivery on specific account or vendor connection. So in practice, you have a business customer who wants to use a cloud contact center secured with TLS, and you can now support that. It doesn't require investing in additional software and its configuration anymore. Moving on to the next feature. There was previously a problem your cloud PBX customers or call center customers, might please switch to the next slide, are very familiar with. This is the problem of abandoned calls. When callers are waiting too long in the queue and eventually hang up. That may lead to customer dissatisfaction and, in some cases, even to lost potential sales. So to improve that experience, we've added the option to request a callback. The way it works, say caller been waiting in a queue for 1 minute. They hear prompt offering a callback. They confirm the number and hang up. Their position in the queue is kept, so when an agent becomes available and the system calls them back, it is happened in the same order they were originally waiting. But you may ask, in which cases can callers request the callback? The first one, when they are placed into the queue which is full. The next one, after defined time waiting in the same queue. Or the third one, when an agent does not answer within the ringing timeout. Example, say John is waiting in the queue. Bob, who is placed in the queue after John, immediately requests a callback and hands up. After some time, let's say 1 minute later, John now confirms a callback too. When an agent becomes available, the system calls John first as he was ahead of Bob in this queue. So basically, it doesn't matter when the caller requests a callback. The system takes into account the position of the callers in the queue. One more thing worth mentioning about callbacks is that requests are valid for 24 hours. So if the system does not manage to reach the caller within this window, within this period, the request expires. So this is the callback flow. For you, this basically means that you can offer a more competitive call center solution on the market. Next, we will talk about improvement for those of you who are using call recordings. So in some complex call scenarios that involve more than 2 participants, for example, a call that comes into an auto attendant, then gets transferred to an hunt group and then to a specific agent. The system creates separate XDRs for each part of such calls. And previously, each part also got its own recording file. So as a result, one conversation may end up as multiple recordings. With MR128, the system can produce a single recording per file. So no matter how many participants were involved or how many transfers were made. Same goes for transcriptions. One transcript per call. This feature enables your customers and admins spend less time searching for files for transcriptions and recordings. Now I will pass the mic to Mike. Really, Mike, take it. My part is done.
I apologize. Out of all days, exactly today, my internet provider decided to act up. But I hope it's okay now. So the next feature I would like to present to you, which is probably quite overdue, is the ability to add new rate codes into multiple tariffs. I know that some of our customers have been doing this via API for years. You know, like new phone prefixes get introduced all over the world all the time. When a mobile operator or fixed line carrier runs out of phone numbers, they get a new block of phone numbers allocated, and this is how a new phone prefix gets introduced. You normally find out about it when you get a tariff update from your vendor, and when you upload that tariff, a new rate code is automatically created in Porta Billing. However, the next logical step is to add that rate code to your customer and reseller tariffs. Maybe not to all of them, but to some of them, you still need to add that rate code. And it used to be a lot of manual work. It used to be challenging, let's put it this way, and especially if you use a feature of override tariffs. You know, that is the feature for the cases when you onboard a new customer and that customer negotiates some special pricing for particular destinations that they are interested in. So let's say if you have 1,000 cloud PBX customer and half of them do negotiate about prices, maybe you have like 500 override tariffs. Of course, each tariff has different rates, right? Because different companies are interested in different destinations, but you end up with 500 override tariffs. And imagine adding a new rate code manually into 500 tariffs. That's a no-go. So the tool on the web interface is basically where you specify the new rate code. Maybe it's already in the system, maybe it's not even in the system yet. And then you have to specify an existing rate code, which is already included in those tariffs, where you want to introduce the new rate code. So in my example, I have 420, 755, a new prefix in Czech Republic, and my tariff already, at least some of my tariffs already have 420.77, which belong to the same mobile operator. So the way it works is once you specify these rates, and there is also the second step where you can basically choose whether to introduce the new rate code in all your customer and reseller tariffs, or you can cherry pick some individual tariffs. But the point is that it iterates through all those tariffs. It checks whether the tariff has 420.77, and if it is present in the tariff, it adds a rate 427.55 and copies all pricing parameters from 420.77. So it can go through multiple tariffs in a single operation and adds that rate code into a variety of tariffs, copying the pricing, the intervals, the price parameter, everything from existing rate code. We hope that this will simplify introduction of new rate codes for your billing administrators who are responsible for customer and reseller tariffs. Now, I would like to proudly introduce the. I would like to mention the interface redesign. During the previous webinar, I already mentioned that we started redesigning the web interface, and I also demonstrated a few screenshots of redesigned customer account pages. We started with those pages because they are the biggest ones, holding the largest amount of information. But we do continue with the redesign, and we covered more pages now. So we've covered all inventories like DID, CPEs, SIM cards. We redesigned the services page, the service policies, the log viewer page, and we also moved Audit Log to the side panel, similar to the panel where you can see the help. So these are the changes in the maintenance releases 126, 129, and we will continue to redesign more pages, like we are currently working on products and bundles. So this will be released next. Again, the whole idea of this web interface redesign is to make life easier for your billing administrators, make getting to the relevant information faster, and using side sheets, creating new objects should be also easier to do. So now let's speak about new developments in PortaPhone, and I'll cover first the mobile application. We've added a number of features there, one of them being present. So basically, your users can see people from their contact list who are online, who are offline. BLF allows them to see whether the colleague is currently busy talking to somebody on the phone or they are available. Mobile app now allows to embed new pages. A good example of those pages, of those custom pages, could be, for example, a sign-up page. So, somebody downloads your PortaPhone, customized branded PortaPhone application, and they need to register before they start using your service. So you could embed this sign-up page into the PortaPhone application. But the most important feature, I believe, is the last one. That's basically the ability to pull a running call into the application. This is especially useful for those users who from time to time need to move around the office or move around, I don't know, some facility like a warehouse, production line, or just for ordinary PBX users who just need to leave the office for some reason, but they need to continue the conversation. So the way it works, let's imagine a call center agent is running PortaPhone web application. So they're sitting in front of the computer talking to a client, and at some point they need to leave the office. So instead of transferring that call to their mobile phone, or instead of parking that call and retrieving it from another user agent, they can simply now pull up the mobile phone, launch PortaPhone, and in the PortaPhone they see that there is an active call for their extension. The calls that they had in the web browser, and they can just, with a single tap, they can just pull that call into the mobile phone. There is no interruption for the other party. It works naturally. So basically 1 second, the agent speaks through the web application. The next second, they speak through the mobile application. It's done seamless for the transfer is seamless for the other party in the call. The same goes for the call if they were talking, if the PBX extension was talking through their desk phone, and then they need to leave the office, they can again pull the call into the mobile application. Now, speaking about the web application, we've added a number of new features, but during the previous webinar, my colleague Svetlana mentioned that we started redeveloping the web application using a different technology. The main point of that technology switching was to get new features delivered faster, implemented and delivered faster. because web application had some catching up to do comparing to the mobile application. And that's what we did. And Svetlana already presented attended call transfer in the web application. But now we've added a number of other features which were available only in the mobile app previously. Instant messaging, chats are now available in the web app. Ability to check voicemails and listen to voicemails. Ability to put a call on hold and answer or initiate another call. So basically call waiting is there as well. And if the company, your customer has multiple DADs, if the extension or the call center agent needs to make an outbound call, they can pick which company DAD they want to be presented as a caller ID to the called party. So we hope that with all these improvements in PortaPhone, you'll be able to offer it to your PBX customers, to your call center customers, and maybe even onboard more customers. Now let's speak about new modules in the Add-on Mart. And the first one I would like to describe is for emergency calls in North America. We've done integration with a company called Bandwidth. It's one of the leaders in the North American market when it comes to handling emergency calls. That's why we integrated with them. And the way it works is that before any PortaSwitch account can make an emergency call, before they can call 911, their address must be validated with Bandwidth. So whenever you create a customer or you add accounts, the address must be provided for them, and we've made the configuration flexible. So basically, if your customer is just a company with a single office and all the accounts are located in that office, you can define the address on the customer level. If they have several offices, you can use customer sites and define the address at the level of customer site. If there is, let's say, one account who works from home or from some remote location, so they are basically at another address, only on that account you have to specify a different address. And then no matter at which level the address is specified, the system takes that address, sends it to Bandwidth for validation. And then when the account actually makes a call to 911, PortaSwitch includes a reference to that validated address into the SIP invite. So basically, the invite goes to Bandwidth with ID of the address, which is already registered at Bandwidth. And this way, Bandwidth can pull up the address and route the call to public safety answering point, supplying all the required address information and basically allowing you to make your emergency calls of your customer fully compliant with American regulation. So that's the first module. The next one is we built an SMS gateway for those of your customers who run Microsoft Teams or basically who work in their offices and utilizing Microsoft Teams. Most of you are probably aware, we've had another module in Add-on Mart for Microsoft Teams for quite a while, and I know several customers using that integration with Microsoft Teams, which allows basically to route all calls outside of MS Teams through PortaSwitch. And when you get those calls routed through PortaSwitch, you obviously can charge your customers for those calls, and this is your revenue, right? So we've tried to build a similar approach for SMS because Teams has a place on the interface where users can chat, basically using the SMS, send and receive SMS. So with this module, you can have all those chats being run through this SMS gateway. Obviously, in order to deliver the actual SMS to a mobile network, it still needs to go through some SMS aggregator. It already supports integration with Twilio, but we can add other SMS aggregators. Just let us know if you need another one. That's how the SMS are delivered. But the most important part is that this SMS gateway reports all the SMS usage to Porta billing. And those SMS get charged automatically. So they are visible in the XDR history, they can be included in the invoice, and basically it enables you to get additional revenue from those SMS charges from your MS Team, from your customers running MS Teams. Now, the last module in the Add-on Mart is probably the simplest one. That's basically the module for Polycom phones, which allows provisioning of corporate directories or corporate phone books. So during the previous webinar, I introduced or I described such a module for yelling phones, but I know that some of you do provide Polycom phones. I know that in US market, this is like the second most popular brand. And I know there are other markets where it's also popular. So we do have a number of modules for different Polycom phone models for provisioning of those. But this is just, but those modules which are available in the Add-on Mart, this is just basic provisioning of SIP parameters, right? Now, with this module, it is also possible to set up a corporate directory. For example, your customers can do it through the Cloud PBX portal. And then those directories, together with generic SIP provisioning, will be provisioned into a particular phone. So the user can pull up, the directory on the phone display and just, tap a specific contact and the call goes through. We hope that this feature will allow you to attract even more customers with Polycom phones and sell to more Cloud PBX customers. And now I would like to proudly present the extension self-care portal. As you are well aware, we've had Cloud PBX portal available in the Add-on Mart for several years now. And it did provide access to PBX administration for your customers, but the access level was either the full PBX administration, like the customer level access, or there was also a separate access for the supervisors of hand groups or ring groups, right? So like a person could manage their particular group. Now we've added the third level of access, and that's for individual extensions. So basically, an extension can log in to this portal and get access to typical extension features, like managing their call forwarding feature parameters, managing their voicemails, listening to voicemail, checking call history, listening to call recordings, you name it. It's a full set of typical extension level features. And the good news, it's not a new Add-on Mart module. It's just a newer version of Cloud PBX portal. So those of you who are already subscribed and who already deployed Cloud PBX portal, you just need to get your portal updated to a newer version, and that's it. You don't need any other additional subscription or anything. It is part of the same Add-on Mart module. There was a number of smaller features added to the Cloud PBX portal. For example, ability to review or download faxes, or if somebody manages the auto attendant, they can now play back the prompts, the uploaded prompts for auto attendants. They can now play it back directly in the web browser. So they don't need to actually call the main company number and listen to all those menus in order to recall which prompts they configured half a year ago. Again, all these improvements with the Cloud PBX self-care portal, they are designed with one purpose, that hopefully you will be able to attract more customers, and your customers will be happy, managing their PBXs and managing their extensions via this portal. So that's it for the new features. Let's now talk about the future and what are the plans of PortaOne in terms of next features. So first of all, we slightly changed the approach how we pick the next features to be implemented. Obviously, as usual, if any feature is business critical, you can request it and you can prioritize it by covering the development costs. That stays as it always was. There is no changes there. But we are talking here about features which are nice to have, but not critical enough that you would be willing to pay for them. We have created a new portal, which is available at the same address which we used some years ago, wishlistportaone.com. And that's a completely new, a brand new portal where you, as PortaOne customer, can submit your ideas, your requests for new features. But more importantly, every PortaOne customer with an active PortaCare gets a certain amount of special tokens, and you can use those tokens to vote or upvote specific features on that portal. We launched that portal just a month ago, a little bit more than a month ago. There was some voting already done by some of our customers. The first feature I have in the list here, and the one we've already finished the design for, and we are now starting implementation, is configurable SIP response call. So, when the call is made through PortaSwitch, Sometimes it fails authorization, sometimes it cannot be delivered for a number of different reasons, but in almost all cases, PortaSIP responds with 403 unauthorized. Like it's a go-to response code for PortaSIP right now, right? And it's not always good. And for some, especially in wholesale business, for some of your wholesale customers, you need a different response code depending on the reason why the call doesn't go through, while the call is not authorized or whatever the reason is. And the idea of this feature is that you would be able to customize it for different customers, for different vendors. You would be able to customize SIP response code so PortaSIP would reply differently depending on the reason why the call could not be connected. So this is a feature which was particularly on that wish list, which got a lot of votes. I believe it was second, and we took that feature and we are implementing it right now. But there are also some other features. For example, IPv6 support is also on the wish list. It didn't get as many votes yet as a configurable SIP response code, but the idea here is obvious. Partially we did support we do support IPv6 even now, but the idea here is to have full-blown IPv6 support, so PortaSIP can natively handle calls when user agents are running on IPv6 and PortaSIP itself runs on IPv6. Also, it is about porta billing as well, because if you need to provision, for example, static IP address to your internet users, it will support IPv6 as well. So this is about full-blown support of IPv6. The audio prompts is basically if you develop a voice application using our call control API, you will have an API method to supply text and basically request the text to be transferred into an audio prompt during the live call, like in the middle of the call. You send the text, the prompt gets generated, and then that prompt is immediately played back to the caller. So that's another feature. E-invoice is something which it's a new regulation in the EU, which basically mandates bigger companies to start using. It becomes mandatory in 2027, and for smaller companies in 2028. This is a new format of invoices for business-to-business invoices. Yeah. So we are planning to develop this new format. Stripe reintegration, you might be surprised with this one because Stripe has been available, was integrated, I don't know, at least 5 years ago. So why do we need to do another integration? And the point here is that the current integration works in a way that when your customer enters a credit card or your administrator enters credit card on the admin interface, it's first sent to Porta billing backend and then it's transferred to Stripe. Now, Stripe has a new set of libraries, JavaScript libraries, which we plan to implement in our front ends, like Cloud PBX portal, admin web interface, reseller web interface, and so on. So basically, the new thing about these libraries is that the card information is never sent to PortaSwitch. The library communicates directly with Stripe backend, so the encrypted card information only travels between browser of the end user who enters the card and Stripe. So it's more secure, and that's why we want to do another round of integration with Stripe to change it to work this way, in a more secure way. And CLI validation is actually a top one feature from the wish list. However, it requires additional analysis. Like with SIP response codes, we are already at the implementation stage. With CLI validation, we still need to find out all the requirements and need to design a solution for it. But the basic idea is that when you receive calls from other carriers, the CLI in those calls should be validated that it actually belongs, it's from the range of numbers of that particular carrier, that the carrier doesn't send calls with fake CLIs. That's the basic idea of the feature. And now it's time for a special offer, the one that I mentioned at the beginning of our webinar. We've developed a new sign-up wizard. It is already available in the Add-on Mart, so you can sign up to this module. That's basically if you don't want to spend any time developing, hiring third-party developers, wipe coding or whatever, you just want to ready-made customizable self-care sign-up portal. That's your solution. That's what you can use for onboarding customers. Basically, the special offer here is the following. If you sign up to this Add-on Mart module till the end of the summer, the fee for using the module will be waived until the end of the year. So you can check out a demonstration version of this sign-up wizard. Stacy will now post the link, the URL of this demonstration version to the chat. Please open the page immediately or store that URL somewhere, and please check it out later. And if you think that's a suitable sign-up page for your business, please do sign up in the Add-on Mart, and you will enjoy free sign-up wizard for the rest of 2026. So that's all for today in terms of describing our features and talking about plans. These are the main topics that we've covered today. Let me now check if we have any questions in the Q&A section, and Stacy and I will try to answer those questions. There is a question whether e-invoice, this new format of invoices, and Stripe integration, whether they're going to be available for the hosted Porta billing or through Add-on Mart only. Yeah, the plan is, Stripe has been available through the Add-on Mart for years now, and we will continue having it as a Add-on Mart module. So it will be available through Add-on Mart only. Most likely, it hasn't been finalized yet. Maybe we will just introduce a new module. Maybe we will just replace the old one. But anyway, those who are already signed up to the existing Stripe integration, they will get the Stripe integration automatically. I mean, the new integration automatically. You will not need to sign up to anything new or things like that. E-invoice integration is going to be in the Add-on Mart as well. That's because we will be integrating with a e-invoice, with a solution provider which actually generates those XML files for e-invoice. And, if we do it in the PortaSwitch, you will be able to use it only once you update to a particular maintenance release. If we do it as an Add-on Mart module, it is available for all existing customers pretty much right away. So that's the idea. That's why, since it's a regulated thing and it's an integration with third party, which does not touch the core of Porta billing, we can make it an external Add-on Mart module. There is another question with external SMTP server. So I'd like to ask you, please, if you have questions about anything we've covered, feel free to ask them. But if you have some other feature requests on your mind, let's take that offline. Let's discuss them separately. I don't remember currently any SMTP development in the plan or any changes in the SMTP configuration in the plan, but I could be wrong. I cannot keep all the suggestions and all the items from Wishlist and from all the tickets in my head. So for any features which are not part of this webinar, I will have to take that offline. Okay, I see there was something written in the... Yeah, there is also in the, not in the Q&A section, but there are some questions in the chat. When PortaSwitch will support SIP plus WebRTC? I'm assuming that this is about getting WebRTC protocol natively supported by PortaSwitch. Did I get it right? Is that what you're asking? If that is the question, I have to say there are no plans to build WebRTC technology into PortaSwitch. What we do have WebRTC backend, or basically a gateway, which converts from WebRTC to SIP as a part of our backend infrastructure for PortaPhone. So, if you deploy PortaPhone web application, which obviously sends all the media using WebRTC, it will automatically utilize the backend of PortaPhone to convert it from WebRTC to SIP. But we don't have any plans to support WebRTC natively in the PortaSwitch itself, in the soft switch itself. There is also a question about VoIP push when PortaSwitch will support. This is new to me. I'm not aware about that one. So please, let's either discuss it via support or just submit it to this wishlist PortaOne.com. I forgot to mention, by the way, to access wishlist.PortaOne.com, you use your regular credentials for UTrack. So if you already have credentials using which you log into UTrack, and where you review tickets or you submit new tickets, you can use the same credentials to access wishlist PortaOne.com. So you can suggest your idea about this void push notifications to the wishlist, and let's see, maybe it will be voted, to the top of the list, and then during our next session where we will be picking up next new features from the wish list, it will be number one to get implemented. Okay, so it looks like we've covered all the questions. So thank you for joining our webinar, and I hope it was informational for you. Have a nice day.